Do you really?
Donation for the fungus that's growing.
So Ravenna Creason sent my grandson home with a project.
I mean, I want to watch it too, but I want to. I have to wait till.
No, I already did it. He had to present about himself
Good.
today.
Okay.
How do you watch it?
All right. We'll call it to order the Ravenna City Council. We'll call to order the Ravenna City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for January 22nd at 6 p.m. The first item on the agenda is approval of Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from December 18th. Were there any additions or corrections to those? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Number 2 on the agenda is an ordinance to accept a $1,000 donation from Swage Lock for the fire department, sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Ms. Michael couldn't be here tonight. This seems pretty straightforward. Chief, some of you kind of looking at you on these. Is there anything out of the ordinary that we need to be aware of?
No, absolutely not. The Swage Lock, pretty much on an annual basis, gives both the police and fire a donation every year, ranging anywhere between $500 and $200 somewhere in there, depending on what they're able to donate. And it's basically a gift.
Is there any questions from council on this? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 3 on the agenda is an ordinance to accept a $1,000 donation from Swage Lock for the police department. Anything? Any questions from council on this? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 4 on the agenda is an ordinance to accept a $250 donation from the Elks Lodge for the police department. Anything you want to say on that, chief?
Just that money is gonna go, we're gonna put that back into community engagement, so we get the donation, but we're gonna put it back out.
Okay, great.
Great.
If there's no questions from council, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 5 on the agenda is an ordinance to accept a $10,425 body-worn camera grant for the police department. I know this information should be in the packets that I saw. Is there anything in addition to what was discussed at the last meeting? Any questions from council on this grant? Well, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And number 6 on the agenda has a typo, so I'm going to read it correctly. It's an ordinance to enter into a contract with Montrose Ford for the new police cruisers. Chief, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, it's straightforward. We were able to get the vehicles from last year, and then this year's vehicles at the same time.
Is there any questions on those? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And Bob, I'm going to look at you for these next 2. But number 7 on the agenda is an ordinance amending the codified ordinance, chapter 1044.02, sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Bob, I don't know if you might be able to comment on that from what I was reading in the packet or what was discussed at the last meeting, or Mr. Harper, if you want to add to it.
Yeah, these changes were submitted by Dominic. They were just updates for certain distances, for different things.
Most of it was based on Ohio EPA
Yeah, Okay.
regulations.
just updating the regulations.
Updating regulations, right. We've been operating kind of that way, so it's time to update the rules.
Okay. Any questions or additions? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 8 on the agenda is an ordinance amending codified ordinance chapters 1052.08 and 1052.09, also sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Mr. Harper, you mind?
Kind of
coming?
the same thing, just updating based on current guidelines that were different than our codified.
Okay.
Updating.
Same deal?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions from council on that? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And number 9 is the ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the 2024 annual paving program, best time of the year, sponsored by Streets and Sidewalks. Mr. Harper.
Yeah, everybody received the map at the meeting showing what streets and what upgrades are going to take place. The big one is again 59 Main Street. Pretty straightforward.
Do you know how many lane miles you might be doing this year?
Our annual paving program is not very many. I don't have the exact number.
Okay. And I know Main Street is probably, since that's getting done, maybe that's a different number. But
I can get
Any-
the answer for you.
yeah, if you don't mind. I like seeing the numbers year to year. It's interesting. Questions from council? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And number 10 on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the 2024 annual striping program, also streets and sidewalks. Mr. Harper?
Again, this is an annual thing we do to keep the crosswalks and different markings visible for everyone to see.
All right. Questions, comments on this? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 11 on the agenda is an ordinance to enter into a contract with GPD Group for a traffic signal upgrade, also streets and sidewalks. Mr. Harper?
So this is to allow the study at King and Main to take place, and if a signal is unwarranted, the company will also put together a plan, design some different options for us to still make that crossing safe, since there's an elementary school right there, whether it be a crosswalk, pedestrian walk, or a signal, but they're gonna design some options for us to take a look at.
Any questions or anything we're missing, Bob? Okay. Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
And number 12 on the agenda is an ordinance appropriating $38,496.67 for the purchase of salt and plow equipment, also sponsored by Streets and Sidewalks.
Yep, this is the outfit, the truck that we were able to purchase in December.
And I have a,
Go ahead.
what size of plow is that? Is that an 11? foot?
That wasn't specified to me, I'm not sure. Whatever the normal size is for those big 550 trucks. It could be 11 foot, I'm not sure.
Okay, 550, okay, it's probably a 10. Okay, yeah, something, since that's not a bigger one. Okay, thank you.
Any questions on that? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 13 on the agenda is an ordinance to appropriate $64,000 and approve water meter purchases up to $100,000. This is sponsored by Utilities. Mr. Moskin?
Yes, this is actually for new water meters in commercial properties. They are 3, 4, and 6-inch meters. And the reason why they're going to be replaced is because they're approximately close to the end of their life. If you push them too far, they will actually start to slow down from their internal components that would be going bad. I can go into more detail if you really want, but
No questions on my end.
Okay.
I saw there was a discount, and then some of the largest, I think, water users were listed out.
yes.
in that. So, any questions from council on this item? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 14 is an ordinance increasing the water and sewer rates according to COLA and CPI recommendations, also sponsored by Utilities. Mr. Moskin?
Yes, this would be figured out separately for water and sewer, since both are, water usage is completely different rate compared to wastewater. And so it would be figured out each year depending on what the cost of living and the CPI recommendations would be, since sometimes it varies year to year. If it would be in a negative, then it wouldn't decrease, it would just stay the same.
All right. And I saw that, Mr. Content, you sent over the CPI index, just showing that most things in the month of December, 12 months ending in December, excuse me,
Correct.
rose 3.4%. Is there anything else we're missing on this agenda item?
I think we're good.
Okay. Any questions from council? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 15 on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for the Connecting Communities Planning Grant, sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karas?
Yeah, we talked about this last week. Judy Watkins is interested in applying for this. We applied for it in 2016. In our package last week, we had the grant recommendation, or grant application that we provided in 2016. And this is basically a grant to connect, parks, what do I want to say?
Bike trail.
Trail. to downtown, so people can walk and take their bikes and so forth. We don't have the application ready yet. I contacted Judy after the meeting last week, and she's working with Todd Peets, and I think he has an intern, Nick. And so hopefully, I told him, well, we need it by our regular council meeting if we want to apply for the grant. So let's hope they get it to us by then.
There is no match, according to.
There's no match. Yeah, I think they have like, what is it, $80,000, and they were planning to award a couple. And this is, by the way, this is just to the feasibility study. It's not to actually do the work to create some sort of connection between the trail and the downtown. But I think they'd probably be going for somewhere around 40,000.
I'm the chairman on AMAT's TAC committee now, so I have a seat at the table.
Okay.
Let's get that application ready.
Moving along there.
All right. Any other questions, comments? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 16 on the agenda is an ordinance to appropriate funds and enter into a contract with T. Manfres and Associates, also sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karas?
So, as we've been discussing plans for moving the safety forces in City Hall, we discussed the need to at least consider moving into that space or another adequate space, Parks and Rec. So this is just, I believe it's $7,000, or is it changed?
Judy asked Sean Thompson to revise his scope.
Right.
He had two items, one feasible study of the existing rack and then also a new building. She asked him to remove that. I'd like to move this forward, knowing that the price is going to change, should reduce a couple $1,000.
She removed which part?
The feasibility of updating the rack
Okay.
and just design a new building.
Okay.
Not design, but feasibility.
To include in the
The
plans.
layout of a new building,
Yeah.
square foot, and a price tag.
Okay, and this is, I believe, something council wanted included in our discussions about the planning for the new facilities. So no guarantee they will be part of it, but we'll see what the architect can come up
This is
with.
the starting point.
Yeah, so this is just like when we asked the architect to develop plans for the other facilities. And it sounds like it'll be less than 7,000.
And then, if it goes through with that, were there any plans for that existing building after?
Well, that's not part of this discussion.
okay.
But, you know, I guess it all depends on a lot of factors. I mean, if they do move, then I guess we have another discussion. What do we do with the old building?
The
It used to be
annex. Okay.
Yeah, the annex, which is an old building. I don't know if it's in the historic, is it
I think it
registered?
is.
Okay.
1926, I think it's on the register.
Okay. So, I don't know. Well, I guess that's another discussion down the road.
That's-
Okay,
That's
thank
one of many
Oh, sure.
decisions we'll have to make.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there's other buildings that are going to be vacated too, yeah.
We were talking a little before the meeting started. I would like a couple council members to sit with us while we discuss the overall plan of parks, safety, City Hall, disposing existing properties. We took the first step by buying the high school property. The next step is how we're going to occupy it. And it's difficult to project 25 years from now, but that's ultimately the decision with the financing. So
It is, it's hard to predict 25 or longer into the future.
perhaps when the architect and Judy meet and they get stuff on paper, then we can form a committee after that
Yeah,
and really dive deep into this.
okay.
As you know, fire department is out of space. Mark can speak to that, but there is some urgency in my opinion.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees that the priority, if this is phased in, would be safety forces, City Hall, and then what, you know, that progression. All right.
Any questions on this then? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And number 17 on the agenda is an ordinance to appropriate $10,000 and to enter into a contract with GPD Group for Osborne Park, also sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karas?
Yeah, so this was added to the agenda last week, and I believe the Parks and Rec Board met the same night we did and selected GPD from the list or the applicants. They won the award, and this is just to appropriate the $10,000 since that's the firm they picked.
With the new ordinance, council does not have to approve the mayor signing the contract, correct, since it's under $25,000? So we would just be in essence appropriating the money.
Was it in the budget? I guess that would be the,
It was not in the, I don't believe it was in the budget,
No.
but from a contract standpoint. So I believe the tracking sheet read appropriate the money and enter a contract. Wouldn't have to enter the contract since the new ordinance was passed, if I understand it correctly.
who has a better memory, because I thought it was budgeted. We can look.
If
I
it wasn't
guess it's-
budgeted, I believe it still has to come to us for additional
That was my-
appropriation and
For
approval.
appropriation, yes, but not authorizing the mayor to sign a contract.
Okay.
Well, and Mayor, didn't you say that there was the railroad strip of property that we don't?
I was, someone looked me up the next day and said that there was, Jim DePola did meet with the railroad.
Yeah, we did.
So that's why this is on here.
Okay.
It wasn't going to be on there, but there was contact with them about it. But until that's a done deal,
Should we wait on this until that's a done deal and we actually have possession of
Well-
the property?
So I have an email from the railroad stating they're fully funded. And that was in November, and the person that spoke to the mayor did not know that. Jim DePaul and I met with them afterward, and we were going to meet in January with the railroad to continue the discussion. Typical railroad takes them a couple months to do one meeting and then plan another meeting. They don't react like the rest of us seem to.
Do you,
So,
I mean, worst case scenario, do you see this, if we were to move this forward, I guess is my point, then February, March, April, for 3 readings, is that long enough that you would have something in place
I believe so, yes. Yes.
if council's okay with that, I guess is the other question.
It will move forward.
Any questions from council? Are you comfortable with the 3 readings if it comes down to that?
Yes.
Okay. If there's no other questions, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And then, Chief, if I could just circle back one, just to make sure, Wallace, what was the Montrose? Number 6 on the agenda, ordinance to enter into a contract for new police cruisers. So there's the contract with Montrose Ford. Is there a separate contract for Motorola Solutions, or no?
That was just a typo.
Okay, okay.
I did
wanna
have a
make
question about that, too. There are 3 identical vehicles, Chief, and 2 of them are one price, and the other one's $300 cheaper. What's,
So when we ordered the vehicles, we ordered vehicles at the beginning of 2023, and those vehicles didn't come in until January. And in January, the Montrose Ford had a bunch of extra vehicles because of the shortage. A lot of other police departments went to other vendors, or they found other different models of vehicles to buy. So there was a lot left on the lot. So the 3 that we bought were exactly the same, and then we got for 2023 and then 2024, 2 of them were similar and one's just a little bit different. It just has a little bit different package. They're all the same vehicle, but there's a nuance as far as like, some of them have different wiring. They might have a rear AC, so that's probably the price difference. I'm not exactly sure what it is on the thing, but that's probably why there's a difference in price.
So if you have to ride in the back, you want the one with the rear AC.
yeah, $44,000 one.
that's for the dog.
They cost these days. I just bought a car.
It's a canine car.
All right. Any other new, old business? No? Okay. Well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Wait,
this election is coming faster than we can imagine. And the school does have a levy on the ballot. At some point, we should entertain an endorsement, a resolution of endorsement for that. I was just out at the school doing a proclamation recognizing school board members. Bill Wisniewski's going to come in and talk to me about the thing, so it is something I'm asking for tonight. But if we don't do it, I said, what kind of timing do you want on this? Does it need to be February? If it's on March, it's going to be a couple days before the election. And I think probably we need to try and do it in February.
Did we do one before?
We did, not the last one, no.
Okay, 2?
Yeah, it's been a while ago.
We did one not too long ago, but not the last one.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think we can add it to
Their
this.
philosophy at that time was not to stir the pot,
Yeah.
and maybe this will work out, and it didn't.
I think we can approve it now.
Yeah.
And put it on the agenda for February.
Yeah,
if
I
that's
see what you're
the
saying.
will of council. So we don't have to go through the endorsement part.
So it would be a resolution to support, thank you, Ravenna City School District levy. So a resolution to support the Ravenna City School District levy, if everybody's comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Do you need a motion? You don't need a motion for a resolution then? Okay, we'll move that forward then. Is there anything else for tonight? Well, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Adjourn. All in favor?